Okay, in 5.3 we're going to talk about translations of the graph of sine and cosine. Make sure you know what the fundamental period of each is. The sine function starts off at 0, 0, right? It goes up like this, down, back up like that. The fundamental period of the cosine starts off at 0, 1, goes down, comes back up like that. So make sure you know the basic shapes. And then the properties of each. The graph of f of x equals a sine bx plus c plus d. The amplitude will always be the coefficient, the absolute value of the coefficient of the sine function. It's the absolute value of this number in front right here. And then the period will be 2 pi divided by b, 2 pi divided by that number. And then the phase shift will be negative c over b. And the vertical shift is going to be d. So remember those. Anyway, let's look at some examples here. If you were to look at the graph of f of x equals negative 4 sine x, the most important feature of this one is the change in the amplitude, right? It's going to be 4, and also there's going to be a reflection across the x-axis. So anyway, if you were to graph this, though, you'd graph the shape like this. If you were to plot some points, you would see, let's plot some points here. Let's see, starts off at 0, 0. But instead of going up, it's going to go down. Well, let's do the period first. The period's 2 pi, so this is 2 pi 0, right? Instead of going up, it's going to go down. So what would be those points? It would be pi over 2, negative 4, right? This would be pi comma 0. And this would be 3 pi over 2 comma 4. That's how it works. Let's keep going. Now on this one, the graph of f of x equals sine of 4x, there you have a period shift, right? So if I were to graph this, I would probably just go ahead and plot the sine function, and then I would adjust for the period later. That's the secret on it. So let's see, the graph is going to look kind of like this. Let's see. Here's the graph of the sine function. And instead of labeling it 2 pi comma 0, I'm going to label this point, let's see, the period's 2 pi divided by 4, which is pi over 2, right? So this becomes pi over 2, 0. And this would be pi over 4, 0. So let's see, what would this be then? This would be pi over 8, 1, right? And this would have to be 3 pi over 8, negative 1, I believe. Let's keep going. Now in this next one, you're going to have a phase shift, right? So the phase shifts can be kind of tricky to graph. I would suggest going ahead and just plotting the cosine function and then label it later. That's what I like to do. Watch this. So we go like this. Just plot graph like this. And instead of labeling it 0, 1, let's label this point right here, what would it be? Negative pi over 4, 1, right? Because it's a phase shift to the left. Negative c over b. And then if the period's still 2 pi, wouldn't this point be 2 pi minus pi over 4, comma 1? And then this would have to be, I believe, pi minus pi over 4, negative 1, right? Now the y-axis would be somewhere around here. That's not really that important, but you have the y-axis right there. Anyway, let's keep on going. Now on this next one, there's quite a lot going on, so maybe it might be nice to label everything on this next problem. Okay, so on this one, you might want to rewrite it first as negative 1/2 cosine pi x plus 1. That might be helpful. You notice there's a vertical shift of 1. The amplitude's 1/2, but there's also a reflection there because it's negative, and the period will be 2 pi over pi, which is 2. But it's basically a cosine function. We're looking at y equal 1, though. Think of that as your starting point. And in fact, since it's a negative 1/2, we start off below and just draw a cosine function like that. Like I said, we'll label everything later. Let's see, it's going to start off at 0, negative 0, 1/2, right? There's no phase shift, just the vertical shift. Now the period's 2, so what would this point be right here? This point here would be 2, 1/2, wouldn't it? And then what would this be? This would have to be 1, 3/2. So that's how it looks. Okay, on this next one, you notice that we have a period change and a phase shift. That's when you got to be careful. The secret to graphing these is you always start at the phase shift and go the period. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Period is 2 pi over 2, which would be pi, and the phase shift is negative b over c. I should say negative c over b, right? Negative c over b, which is negative pi over 2. But anyway, you basically have a cosine function here. So let's just graph this, and we'll label stuff so it comes out the way it's supposed to come out. It's kind of cheating, isn't it? Anyway, so let's just start labeling things. Now, start of the phase shift. The phase shift is negative pi over 2, okay? So the amplitude's 1, so this is the point, negative pi over 2, right? Comma 1. And the period's pi, so that means over to here, what do you get if you add pi to negative pi over 2? You get pi over 2, right? Comma 1, right? All right, and so what would this point be right here? This point would be 0 and negative 1, right? So I guess that means the y-axis would look like that. Anyway, that's the way to do it. Let's do one more. I've got time for one more here, looks like. Again, on this one, there's a lot going on here, so let's identify what everything is. Okay, in this one, we have f of x equals 10 sine of pi x plus 4 pi. So the periods, I should say the amplitude is 10, the period's 2 pi over b, which becomes 2, and then the phase shift is negative c over b. So it's negative 4 pi over pi, which is negative 4. Alright, it sounds complicated, but the secret is to just plot the sine function, start at the phase shift, and go the period. So let's just plot the sine function here. Okay, so we're going to label, start with the phase shift. The sine function starts right here, right? Right here. But instead of calling this 0, 0, this is going to be negative 4, 0, you see? And since the period is 2, this becomes, what do you get if you add negative, what if you add 2 to negative 4? You get, this is the point, negative 2 comma 0, right? Okay, so then this would have to be, what, negative 3 comma 0, right? And then this point right here, since the amplitude is 10, would be, what would this be? Negative 3.5 comma 10. And this would have to be negative 2.5 comma negative 10. That's how it works. Start at the phase shift and go the period. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.